Hello, I'm Jeff, and this is Snap Talk, your podcast supplement. There seems to be some concern surrounding the Final Fantasy VII remake that was revealed at E3 2015. Stories coming out of development haven't been too kind to the process over the past couple of years, and even when progress was reported, there was something negative to follow, like how the game was going to be split into multiple episodes. Recently, a reported rumor from someone presumed to have knowledge of development tells of how Square Enix has had to almost restart the entire project as they were unsatisfied with the work done for them by CyberConnect. And even if it's not true, it's not hard to imagine Square Enix having issues with remakes. After all, this isn't the first time Square Enix has had an issue with remakes and re-releases of their older, awesome games. Remember the Final Fantasy mobile remakes that got ported to Steam? The games went from having interesting pixel art on Super Nintendo to looking flat and bland and full of terrible graphical interfaces. The Secret of Mana HD remake? While the 3D-ish models aren't bad, in my opinion, some people have had issues, there are issues with the empty menu screens, the ring menu that for some reason now opens up in the middle rather than over the selected character, and the music seems to ignore classic themes, although that can be fixed with changing to the classic soundtrack in the menu. The Chrono Trigger port to Steam? It was received so poorly that Square Enix just outright patched the game with the SNES version, although still with a bad interface. So it seems like Square Enix doesn't really understand how to remake a damn good game. Or it seems like they'll do the bare minimum, ruining the experience for those that enjoyed the original and turn off those that never played the original in the first place. So, in case Square Enix is watching this, here's what they need to remember for all these games. We just want a better working version of the original game! That's all. You don't really need to change all too much when you've already made a great product. Honestly, if they just remade Final Fantasy VII, put it in the Final Fantasy XV engine, kept the same story, kept the same combat, people would buy that. I mean, seriously, what is the biggest issue with the older games? The older games is you have some slowdown, which you can fix now that you have faster processors. In the case of Final Fantasy VII, poor 3D graphics, which, pick one of their engines. Either one will be fine. And I guess in the case of Final Fantasy VII as well, multiple discs. I mean, how much space does a Blu-ray hold? Certainly should hold enough space in there for a remake of Final Fantasy VII. As for things like Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana, you don't necessarily need to make it 3D-ish like you did with Secret of Mana, or even the DS remakes of Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy IV. But you definitely shouldn't make it where the game's color palette is just flat looking. All these characters, all the colors that these characters had just flattened and washed out and bland looking, and making the user interface something that you would get out of RPG Maker. I mean, you are a major video game company. You should be better than an RPG Maker menu. So really, when it comes to these sort of things, there's really only a couple things we want, because ultimately we still want the original stories. So when it comes down to what you should do for remakes, you only need a couple of things. Number one, make the graphics better for 3D. Pick an engine that has good 3D modeling and works well with your gameplay. For more 2D like Final Fantasy VI and 4 and 5, 3, all the others, well, just look at games like Owlboy, where they created like this higher definition pixel graphics. Number two, make sure the frame rate works well. I mean, technology has advanced a long way since the 16-bit era. We shouldn't have this issue. And number three, just rearrange the soundtrack for orchestra. And maybe expand upon the theme a bit if the theme was originally written a bit short on a Super Nintendo or PlayStation. That's all we really need. And if you think, well, that's going to cost too much to do, just remember, these are games that we will buy. These are games that have massive fan bases. Just make them work as better versions of what you already made. That's It's all possible. Just do it. That way you don't have to go in later and patch a game with the older graphics. You do it right the first time, you don't have to do that. Yeah, that's it for this episode of Snap Talk. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with others. If you have a different opinion to what was stated, feel free to comment down below and we can talk about it. If you have an idea for another Snap Talk, leave a suggestion below, and if I feel I can get enough material together, I may talk about it in a future episode. I'm Jeff from Some Nerdy Arguments, and I'll talk to you soon.